Yo, so the old potato just uploaded a alpha video of BMX Streets. He got early access to the game, and he's made like a 17-minute long video showing off a whole bunch of stuff in it. I do recommend you go and watch it. Everything that will be in this video will be taken from that, and this link in the description is from his video as well. I'll link directly to his video. First, go watch that, and then there's some little things I found in the video which I thought were really interesting physics-wise, or I don't know, just things that really interest me that haven't really been cleared up so far, which I'd just like to go into a bit further and maybe inspire you or show you some potential ways that the physics engine's improved a lot in this game, because it looks like it's really flexible and cool, and I'm just really impressed. But yeah, first go watch his video. This is just me kind of reacting to a few little bits that I thought were cool. And yeah, let's go. Alright, so the first thing that I thought was really cool was this little like drop in to a smith on a bowl before he like goes into it. You've never really been able to do that before in pipe. Like you could drop into a double peg, but it was a bit janky and it didn't always work. And any other tricks, it would just automatically make you bail or mess up. So this kind of opens the doors to doing manuals or nose manuals, dropping down into grinds, and just giving you a bunch of ways to get into a bowl that's a bit more unique compared to what you had before. It's a nice little touch, and it kind of shows how more flexible the physics engine is. A little thing, but worth noting. Another little interesting one is, I noticed just there, you can see on the bars there's like a potato sticker. So I presume you can make your own stickers or import them, or maybe it was just put in there already. Who knows? There's a Canadian maple leaf sticker as well, and I'm not sure what the inner two like cap things are. Are they potatoes or are they something else? But already it kind of shows that you do have a good bit of customization with this stuff, or it looks like it at least. So I'm really interested to see how that turns out. Another really cool trick was this. One thing in pipe was it was always really hard to do 360s into grinds because of the way the magnets worked. It kind of got really janky and it flipped you back to 180 and all sorts of weird stuff happened. And also, if you see there, it's actually hitting the ledge with the pedal or the crank arm. And usually that would end up in a bail on pipe. But here, it kind of shows that the physics are a bit more robust. You're not just going to bail and die immediately when you hit something like that. It reacts realistically, which allows you to do a lot more stalls or weird, unusual things like this. And yeah, seeing this really excited me because that was something we never had before, and it will just open up a load of doors for anything that involves not using the pegs on an object. It used to cause bails, but now it seems like it should work. This was also another cool kind of variation of what I said before. The fact that he just sort of naturally goes into that grind. It doesn't lock in like a magnet or anything. He falls naturally into that and then slides down again, which shows you're not locked into a specific grind. It's not like a fixed thing. There's physics involved in the whole thing. And again, that means a lot of this stuff can happen a lot more naturally, and it allows a lot more spins into grinds and just weird stuff to happen, which is really exciting, I think. Another similar thing is when you're in a grind, it appears you can switch position fairly naturally, something you couldn't do before. So here, he's going from a feeble, he's like sliding the wheel down, which I'm not sure how that would actually work in reality, like how you actually perform that action in the game, but it's cool that you can kind of slip between grinds without needing to hop. It looks a lot more natural this way. And again, it's another way of probably change that into a nose manual on the way down and then drop into a grind. Or there's a whole bunch of different variations you can do, and that alone is kind of really cool, I think. Another cool thing, he kind of shows it off a lot more specifically here, like going onto the front peg, dropping the back wheel into like a smith, raising up into a manual, dropping down to a tire ride. It just shows that in one straight flat rail, you could probably do a bunch of variations. Lift up, go into a smith, manual, put your peg down on the opposite side, do like an opposite smith, down to double peg. There's so many different variations you could do. When you start adding in other grinds like crank arm stuff as well, the variations of grinds are going to be ridiculous, I think. And also just the ability to move in and out of stuff based on physics will kind of allow you to do a lot more complex stuff. Say if there's like two ledges next to each other or two rails next to each other, you may be able to switch between them in a lot more natural way and do a lot more complex stuff. Or say if there's two rails like side by side, you could probably have one peg on one rail and one on the other, or wheel on the other, or some sort of weird stuff like that, which if you're me, you're probably going to get some crazy ideas out of. But yeah, really cool. Another thing I thought was really cool was this. Obviously, I think it's a bit bugged or a bit jank or something because the wheel would hit the ledge as it turns around. But the ability to kind of like pivot or do weird stuff like that in the middle of a grind, you could do like a fakey Smith kind of manual and pivot and then land the peg back down going forwards and things like that. There's a ton of different like spin variations that you could get to work this way. This, who knows how it will actually turn out. Maybe this is a bug and this stuff won't be possible in the end, but I would imagine there's some weird things you could do like that, especially if you think about sliders as well. If you can do sliders while you're in this position or do a slider on top and drop down, there'll be some weird things that can happen that way as well, I think. Also notice when he does this toothpick grind that it's not like a fixed position like you get on pipe where he just sort of locks in and doesn't really balance or anything. It's a pretty natural movement, like it looks like it's almost going to flip over, but he kind of pulls it back down again. It rises from low to high as he goes along. So having some sort of natural looking balance in grinds would also make things look a lot better, especially in terms of clips and filming stuff, I think. Next up is all like the skids and slides that you can do. I know Mash posted this in somewhere before Instagram, I think, where he was showing off a few different variations of this. And like that, you can skid and hop while you're in the skid, so you're not locked into a skid. You can actually do things in or around it. And I guess you could combine those with like G-turns as well to do like a bunch of cool flatland stuff. Like there, it's sort of a G-turn, but a skid version of a G-turn or something. And this would add a lot of style in between tricks and also help control speed. If you like me and you're doing a bunch of stuff in a tight space and you need to control speed, it's actually really hard in pipe because you either have to like jam your foot in the back wheel and it slows you down a lot and it doesn't look that good. But if you have things like this, it kind of opens up some different ways to express yourself between lines or control speed and things like that, which I think is really cool. And I'm really curious to do stuff like that. I don't know, it's just really cool to me. One cool thing I noticed about the flares, or maybe it's just one thing I should say for people who are curious about what this will look like or feel like. If you've ever played Scoot, I think it'll be a very similar style where you kind of hold the direction before you lift off. I think that's what TheOldPotato said as well. You hold the direction down before you lift off and it kind of auto completes the spin or the flip, depending on how hard you hard it. And maybe the rotations can be adjusted fairly easily. I know some people don't like that because they feel like it auto completes and it becomes too easy or something. But it makes it a lot easier to do tricks in the middle. Like on pipe, if you wanted to do a flare, it was really complicated to try to figure out how to do other stuff in the middle of it and make it look good. But yeah, if you've never played Scoot before, I would definitely give that a look and you'd get a pretty good feel for how this works, I think. And also kind of the transition stuff, how it all glues together, because it flows really nice. Some people don't like it, but me personally, I think it just makes everything look really good like you see here. Another cool thing which TheOldPotato talked about was pumping stuff. This is another thing that I mentioned in the other bit about doing skids and stuff as well. The ability to control your speed in a different way than pedaling, because pedaling kind of gives you a fixed amount of speed, which can sometimes be too much. You just need this little boost to get onto the next thing, and you don't have to pedal or just kind of make the whole line lose its flow. So the ability to do a little bit of that would end up making a lot of lines look a lot cleaner, I think. So that's something that I'm really excited for, which may seem really minor to a lot of people, especially if you're just doing big stuff. But for smaller tech things, or just getting stuff to flow better, I think that would be really important. Okay, this may be one of the most important things for me in opening up kind of crazy ways of doing different stuff in the game. And it's this like assist detection or whatever it is when it comes to spins into grinds. Before, there was a lot of assist, like it basically locked you in no matter what degree your spin was, and it looked kind of unnatural at times. But with this, you really have to lock it on properly, and if you don't, you get these sort of weird other things that happen, which it may not look good in like cases like this, but there are instances where that could also become its own cool thing. And the fact that you're not just locked into being in like a pegs only kind of grind opens up tons of possibilities. Like you could do a 270 to a disaster or something on a ledge like this, or I don't know, nothing comes to mind right away, but especially with like complex objects and things like that, there's so many different possibilities that open up when you're not locked into doing specific things. You're kind of free to do it yourself. It's a bit like maybe Session as well. Like that doesn't have any magnets or anything. It means you can do some weird stuff sometimes, or get stuff to connect in weird ways. Like if there was this box and maybe like a lamppost or a pole next to it, you could probably get them to connect in weird ways, which would be really interesting, I think. Alright, another cool thing. I noticed, compared to Pipe, it seems like the animations don't have to finish completely for them to work. Like even though it wasn't fully around, it still completed itself, which in this case doesn't look very good. But it does mean you can be a lot tighter with the way that you put in tricks. There was a lot of things in Pipe, like the no-handers, tuck no-handers and things like that. There was a weird bit of a gap between after you do the trick and when it's like, okay, you can land without bailing. And it made it hard to do it in smaller spaces. But if it does weird stuff like this, as long as you give it the right enough height to make it look reasonable, you can maybe fit more stuff in smaller spaces and kind of just get away with things in an interesting way sometimes, which also would have its benefits, I think. Alright, this is another big one as well. The ability to go up to something that's a 90-degree object and get into a stall on it, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but it was something that never really worked in Pipe. You could sometimes finesse it into doing like double pegs and things like that, but never anything like this. And the fact that you can do these little hops to change in between grinds means there's a ton of this sort of stuff that will become possible in a lot of parks. Say you go up a quarter and there's a rail just beyond the quarter, you can go up the quarter, do like some sort of stall on the rail that's behind it, and then hop back into the quarter and stuff like that. A lot of that didn't really work very well, but now it should. And same with just ledges and various things. You could probably do a disaster on this, you could probably do a bunch of different grinds. You can use the physics to lift up into a manual on top and then go down a different direction. There's a ton of possibilities for this sort of stuff. It's really cool. Another cool little trick is this, like the little overhang on the toothpick, which naturally flows into fakie, which is really nice. It kind of shows, again, kind of how flexible the physics are, and that you can just sort of do all this sort of little jibby stuff like this, which adds a lot of style to tricks. And I just can't wait to try stuff out like that, because that could just work on anything. That could just work on a ledge. You could roll off it into fakie on a ledge further down, or on some steps, or some weird stuff. There's so many possibilities. So another cool thing is disasters like this. I know the tires clip through the floor a little bit, so it looks a bit jank. Also that bar spin back looks really cool as well. But being able to disaster and not bail, because before, if the frame or anything touched an object, you'd automatically bail. It was just the way the physics were, but it seems a lot more flexible now, so you can do stuff like that, which looks really interesting. Yeah, none of that stuff was really possible before. Really cool. Another thing it's good to see wall rides are in. They look pretty good. It's crazy how high he gets from this, but I don't know. You could probably small hop to make it look a bit more realistic and things like that, but it's good to see that it seems to be working pretty well, and it's less kind of sudden or jank looking compared to Pipe. There's also an interesting use of it later on where he does it up like this little ledge, but I'll get to that in a bit. Okay, so another cool thing here, going from a nose manual into a Smith, it just looks really smooth, and the fact that that can happen naturally. Also, I like this. You see at the end of the grind, he starts to like slide out of it or start rotating in the middle of the feeble, like that, which when you do a spin after it will make it flow a lot better. I also think that's a really cool touch. The whole thing, well, I just really like this line. It's very tech and kind of flowing. And it shows that you can make the tech stuff look good because the engine's so flexible, it flows it together well, which is really good for somebody like me. But yeah, I really like this part. It's tons of minor things, but in terms of the way Pipe used to play, it opens up so many doors, because just jumping and doing tricks, that was already a thing. That's not really new. It can flow better and stuff like that, but a lot of this stuff has become possible now. So for people that really like this sort of tech street style of things, there's going to be so many possibilities, I think. Oh, I just realised the trick I was talking about with the wall ride on the ledge was earlier on, and I missed it. It's that in Pipe, a lot of the wall ride stuff wouldn't work on little objects like that, which means you can do a lot of cool jibby stuff on all these ledges that are around this park, which would also open up a lot of cool little ideas up, down, around, things like that. And also, if you did this with enough speed, you probably have to wall ride from that directly into the bowl, which would be cool. That's something that I just had in my head that I wanted to try, but yeah, another cool little change, I think. Last off, a little G-turn kind of hop, 360 hop, which looks a lot more flowy and nice than it used to. A lot of that stuff kind of looked a bit jank before, or you could make it look good, but it's definitely a lot nicer now, which I thought was a nice little touch. Just ways of manipulating the bike in a more flat land kind of way. I feel like there's loads of opportunities for this sort of stuff. Other things that we didn't see any hang fives, we didn't see any foot jams. I'm really curious how those work. I think those will open up a lot of cool trick ideas as well, and see if there's any other new tricks that are there. I'm not sure if he couldn't show off everything, either because he just forgot to and he was busy doing other stuff introducing the game, or there's just things that are still a work in progress and we don't know about, but I am very curious. Anyway, that was just my run through of some of the interesting things I saw in that video. We've been waiting years to get a good look at this stuff, and yeah, again, go watch TheOldPotato's video. It's 17 minutes long. There's tons of stuff. I only picked up on like very minor things, which I just wanted to talk about more, which maybe he didn't cover in his video. I haven't played it myself, but it's just things that I can tell from playing a lot of Pipe and seeing this. There's a lot of clear differences there. Go watch his video, watch the whole thing, support anybody that's related to this game. Be nice to get a community going in the end. Keep things going for many years to come. We managed to do it with Pipe, so why not this? And yeah, happy days, I think. I look forward to seeing the trailer. And apart from that, I've also got a Pipe video coming up. I was inspired to do some more Pipe stuff, so I'll maybe show that this weekend or something. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.